Now I'm happy to request Mr. Munish Sharma to come here and address the gathering. A big round of applause for Mr. Munish Sharma. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, MIT, for having me here and giving me this opportunity to speak at this occasion. So, au contraire, the other people present over here, I would not be able to give you any kind of strategy for this exam. For I sincerely believe that UPSC is one such exam where nothing works and everything can work. And it is to each and every individual the way they want to take this exam. We all come with our own individual stories, with our own struggles, own challenges, circumstances. But for those of you who are not atheists who believe in the God, it said that there are various ways to reach the God. You know, it's just about the means. The end is the same. Similarly, for UPSC, I also believe that there's nothing which a particular aspirant has followed, and if you emulate that perfectly, you would be able to succeed as well. It's not that kind of an exam. It's not an IIT or IIM exam that you have a given number of objective questions, you do them and you get through. So after the prelim exam, which is the first level of filter, it gets very subjective. Even the mains are very subjective. So it's not just the interview, even the mains examinations are very subjective. So if 10 people are writing similar answers and their essay are being marked by the same person, they will land up with different marks. And the variation, the total variance in the marks would not be very much. So if I tell you the scores received by various candidates in this year's exam, the topper, even he hasn't got more than 50% of marks. In various subjects, there was a subject on Constitution, paper number 2 in GS. I got 66 out of 250 in that paper. Somebody has got 63, somebody has got 67. So it's really very subjective. But then out of all the things that I would want to convey, the first and foremost would be the fact that do not take UPSC exam too seriously. You know, it's not the end of your life. And do not approach the exam in a way that, you know, if you clear it, you would be achieving something great. And if you do not, it would be the opposite. If you are willing to write this exam for the love of knowledge, for making a positive difference to the society and to yourself, then the journey will become worthwhile and all the more enjoyable. So when you start preparing for civil services, your habits change. For instance, I always read newspapers, but I wasn't a reader of the Hindu. And the Hindu is not the only newspaper I read. I use technology to my benefit. For instance, I was working throughout my preparation and I had 5 days a week working schedule, and I was at a senior position, so I had to manage my team as well. There was extensive traveling also involved. So what I used to do was, with whatever resources available, with whatever time was available to me, whatever was at my disposal, I used to make good use of it. For instance, everyone has a smartphone these days. I am too bad with making notes. Sometimes I cannot even decipher my own handwriting, even if I try to make notes. So while reading newspaper applications, I used to read it for The Hindu, Times of India, Indian Express, BBC, The Dawn, which is the Pakistani newspaper, Al Jazeera, then there is Huffington Post. So I would follow all these news applications, and whatever I used to find that would be required to commit to memory, I would just take a snapshot of it. At the end of the week, I would have 100 to 150 such snapshots. I will make notes out of it, not more than 3 to 4 pages, because you cannot actually remember more than that. It's a year-long preparation, and luckily for all of us, UPSC has come a long way since its inception. Now the examination pattern is no more focused on rote learning or cramming. They're not interested in you guys knowing the facts. They're more interested in analysis part. So you may forget names, you may forget dates, but if you remember the philosophy behind the question, you would end up with decent marks. And yes, I do not have any magical wand or potion to suggest which would land you up in the top 5 rank. It's just serendipity. So even if you have best of preparation, best of mentors guiding you, you have always been a topper, I can say with certainty that let it be just top 5 ranks. Even top 100 rank cannot be guaranteed. IAS cannot be guaranteed. And I would not exhort you to really go for IAS. All these central services are equally prestigious, important, and vital to the functioning of this country. So don't be fixated with just IAS. All the services are equally good. So as I mentioned earlier, if you are taking this exam for your own good, for instance, after going through the various suggested readings for this exam, many ideologies that I had, many false informations that I had, they were destroyed to smithereens. I landed up with new thoughts, new perspectives on various things. So had I not got through civil services as such, I would have definitely benefited out of it. I would have a different kind of respect at workplace. My bosses recognize this fact that, I could talk on any topic under the sun, and it was basically due to the fact that I always knew that I had to write civil services exam one day. It was in class 6 perhaps when I first thought about it. So now most of you are through your school life, but if you have got cousins and siblings who want to write this exam in the future, you can probably suggest to them that they should take all these subjects very seriously. Many people neglect social sciences and languages. That does not augur too well for this exam. So, so this exam, the way it is structured right now, it lays equal focus on humanities, history, geography, economics, political science, science and technology, current affairs, and a little bit of reasoning, maths, and English as well. So it's basically about being jack of all trades and master of none. In fact, the subject that I had chosen as an optional, it was law. I do not have any formal background in law. I was a biochemistry graduate, and then I pursued my MBA. As the luck would have it, I took law only because the coaching institute which was providing the coaching for law, it was very near to my place. I went through the syllabi of all the subjects, and I found an irritant or two in every subject. So I was reading the course curriculum very carefully given by the UPSC. It was mentioned that except for medicine and law, for every other subject, honors level rigor would be required. So in medicine and law, they really don't ask you, MBBS or LLB level questions. The level is a bit lesser than that. In fact, the kind of things that people generally study in LLB, only 40 to 50% of that is asked in the UPSC exam. So I would also tell you about subject selection. As Warren rightly said, there's no fail-safe formula for it. There's no subject which you can be really sure about. In my last attempt, I got 40 on 300 in political science paper 2. And that was probably the best paper I wrote. So that gives you the kind of insight in the way UPSC deals with your papers. So when the results came in and my rank was announced, I thought that I would have got good marks in essay. But I got 130 on 250, which is like 52%. And those people who used to ask me, how should we prepare for essay? How should we structure our answers? And I used to be very persnickety and categorical and critical of the way they wrote. They got 145 and 150. So it's all very comical. When your results would come, you would have a laugh or two. But I would suggest that when you are starting, also, there's one more thing I would want to highlight. If you are willing to go through various sources, do that if you have got that kind of time. Because as I have already said, that exams focus has changed. It's no more fact-driven, it's analysis-driven. So even if you are reading so many books, you should not be very worried. You don't have to cram every other name. You should know basics. For instance, it would be really sacrilegious if you land up in the UPSC hall and you do not even know about the three battles at Panipat. I don't remember that right now. I used to mug it up before every interview, before every mains exam. So basics you should know, and all the other things you can keep on adding and accumulating to your knowledge. When it came to NCRT books, I had studied the older NCRTs and the new ones as well. And I can tell you plus and minus, pros and cons about both the books. But still I find the new NCRTs better. They give you lesser information, but in a better way. In fact, the kind of characters they have introduced in some books, for instance, there's a book on our constitution at work. They have characters like Unni and Munni. They ask very seeding questions, and those kind of questions, you would not even, be able to come up answers with at the first instance. For instance, there was this question, had our constitution been written in 1937 or 1957, how it would have been different from its current form? So now, even if this kind of question comes in civil services examination, it would be a challenging question. Those kind of questions are present in the current NCRTs. So I don't know if the present government would change the NCRTs, but you should save the copies of the present NCRTs. They are quite good. Then talking about various stages of examination, preliminary exam, if you are good with mathematics, if your English has been fine, paper 2 should not be too much of an issue for you. If it is, then you should go to your basics. For instance, I wasn't very good at math. Till class 9th, I would score almost full marks in every other subject, including languages. But in maths, my score would be like 65 out of 80, 67 out of 80. So that used to pull down my overall percentage. So in class 9th, even I had some issues in my family, financial constraints and all. My dad passed away when I was in class 12th. So maybe those challenges turned into blessings. I started giving tuitions in class 9. I used to teach kids from class 6 to 8. When I would teach them mathematics, I started seeing the subject in a new light. So for those of you who still have time and they know that they know their weak areas, I would suggest that start teaching those subjects for free. While teaching the kids, while teaching the pupil, you would understand that there are hidden vignettes of information lying in each and every subject, which you will be able to appreciate only when you are a teacher. All right, we tend to see things differently when we are on the other side of the desk. So that helped me certainly. And paper one is very generic in nature, and now last year's paper was slightly different from 2011 and 12's paper. It was more fact-driven because they have clubbed IFOS exam with CSE exams. If you are, for those of you who are wondering if their preparation is good enough, I would suggest you to solve 2011 to 13's papers, prelim papers, both of them. Download the papers from UPSC's website and download the answer keys as well. And see if your scores are falling in plus minus 20% variance of the cutoff. And you could analyze your problem areas and accordingly work on them. So now you're living in information age, knowledge economy, and there is nothing for which you would mandatorily need a coaching. All right, history and geography, as Varun rightly said, these are the subjects to be appreciated. Even he started appreciating them when he was preparing for IES exam. So for those of you who already have a background in arts, that must not be a problem. But the others, I would say that the problem lies with the way these subjects, humanities, are taught during school time. You know, there's a lot of focus on facts, then the pedagogy. And thankfully, now the things are changing. At least books have changed, if not the way things are taught. So give it a fresh perspective, give it a first read, and I'm sure your opinion about these subjects would change. So after you get done with prelims, for mains, I've told you the way I used to do it. I never maintained proper notes from newspaper. I did not follow one newspaper because every newspaper suffers from some ideological bend. For instance, The Hindu is said to be slightly leftist, and Indian Express is said to be central rightist. So to weed out those kind of issues and to weed out the fact that such ideologies may impact your answers, you may follow different things on tabs or mobiles, whatever you have. And as far as books are concerned, I did not study anything beyond NCRTs. For some subjects, like for modern India, I did go through Bipin Chandra. It gives you a nice story. And for a detailed overview on how to go about preparations, you can refer to a blog. It's by a friend of mine. She got 79th rank this year. rijubafna.com, RIJUBAFNA.com. So I've written 2 entries. One is on law optional and one is on general perspective for civil services. That is what I believe in. Others' views may be different and I respect them. But I believe that, there's no fail-safe formula which you can follow to crack this exam. In fact, for paper 4, I did not prepare anything. I thought that was a breather paper. But now I know that I should have studied a few things and that they would have impacted my scores in a positive way. Also, don't get into too much details like which institutes' notes are to be followed, which newspapers or magazines are to be read. Uh, Many people, especially the ones who do not have financial constraints, may be in this habit of piling up notes and books. That is just a way to befool yourself, and it's a categorical imperative that you should read lesser books, lesser notes, but in a better way. And as far as interview is concerned, I think that there are a few things which you should take care while appearing for CSE interviews. I've interviewed many people for corporate jobs, and the kind of people we like there, people who are very cocksure, very assertive, very smart, we usually end up hiring those people. At CSE, that does not happen. You need to respect the kind of experience the interview board has. You need to appreciate the fact that they may know just anything under the sun. So in my interview experience, I was surprised to find the kind of questions I found. For instance, I mentioned that cooking was one of my hobbies. I was asked the various cooking media used in different states. I was asked how the preparation of patrata, patir, or patra, that's basically made from colocasia leaves, varies across the states. So I was taken aback by the kind of rigor there was in the questions. So I had mentioned that I listen to melody-based music. There were questions on why Lata Mangeshkar is known as Melody Queen. So there were 6-7 questions on Lata Mangeshkar. Then they went on to inquire if I was a regionalist and only listened to Hindi music. So I told them that, for every Jia Jale, I also have listened to Nenjinile by S. Janaki. For Dil Se, I had listened to all the versions, Telugu, Tamil, and the Hindi version. And I appreciate languages. I like learning new languages. And they were happy to know about it. There was question on whether national awards matter. For instance, Lata Mangeshkar has got only 3 awards, while K.S. Chitra, the Malayali singer, she sings in many languages, but she hails from Kerala. She has got 6, and Yesudas has got 7. So I was lucky enough to land up with these kind of questions. They could have asked anything else. Had they asked me questions on, Article 243 of Constitution of India, what is it about? I would have drawn a blank. I would not have known. So I was just lucky, right things happening at the right time. I did not know many things. For instance, I did not know, I'm an MBA, so there were many questions on management background. They asked me the full form of Amul, and I had forgotten it that time. So he nudged me, to recollect. I could only recollect Anand Milk, so he completed it for me, Union Limited. I did not know the full form of Noida. I worked there for 2 years. And I knew it. In 2007, I knew it, but then I had forgotten it. So there was a question on what is 9/11 and what is 26/11. What is the difference between the two? So I tried to tell them, 9/11 happened in the US, 26/11 in India. They wanted to know that DDMM and MMDD kind of format difference. 9/11 happened on 11 September, 26/11 on 26 November. So interview was a very different kind of experience. And though there is a bit of subjectivity, there are a few of your personality traits which you would do better not to expose it to the interview board. So it's always said that you should be honest, you should not project a facade. But I would disagree. When you know that there is something bad about your character, if you're very argumentative, it's good to be an argumentative person. I really appreciate the book Argumentative Indian by Amartya Sen, but don't be like that in front of interview board. So when you have identified your weak areas, your Trojan horses, you would better do, not to expose them in front of the interview board. I am very argumentative by nature, and I cannot get enough of speaking. I am a blabbermouth. I can speak for hours, But during the interview, I learned that I had to stop speaking, after a sentence or two, because they come up with different questions depending on your sentences. They must have something in their mind to ask you. If you keep on speaking and speaking, they may forget to ask their questions, and might as well as make you worried about the things that you said. For instance, this patrata thing came out of the thing which I said during one of the answers. When they were asking me about Lata Mangeshkar, accidentally I spoke 2-3 sentences, and national awards also came up. So the next question sprang up from that. So that's all about my thoughts on civil services examination. You can follow those blog entries, and I'm not very active on Facebook. I keep on sharing the news items which I think that should be read by others. And also, I would tell you the way I used to use Facebook. It's not possible to read all those newspapers. Not every newspaper has their app, and I'm in a habit of reading scientific journals because at the core of my heart, I am a human first, then probably a scientist, and then everything else comes later. So I follow various scientific journals on Facebook, various newspaper websites, and all of them share their best of content on their Facebook page. So I've star marked everyone, everything comes in my news feed. So my Facebook news line is actually like a newspaper of sorts. So I also follow those friends of mine who are specialists in their fields. Like some guy is doing PhD in molecular biology, somebody is doing it in theoretical physics. They cannot help but shout from rooftops when something phenomenal happens in their field. So that helps when you hear it straight from the horse's mouth. So to put it into perspective, you can make good use of technology. It's a boon as well as bane. Your inclination decides that how you would go about it. So other than the questions which would come up here, if there are other supplementary questions, you can put them on that blog, or you can send me an inbox message on Facebook, and if I get time, I would try to answer them. Thank you.